Hey everybody, we're gonna get started in about 3 minutes. We're gonna put some music on for you.
Don't tell me how they hurt you, 'cause I'd kill for you. With your high hopes and your low dreams, your future's too dark to see. Like me, we all feel free sometimes. Now that I've realized I got how to dry my eyes on weekend nights. You might feel the same way that I do on the weekdays, but it's hard to stay away. When I see your face, I might
Thanks for putting that in the chat, Mass.
But not fall in love. Call my bluff, please do, 'cause I've been meaning to talk to you. Call my bluff.
Horace.
I'm afraid to say these words I need to say, and I hate the way I write a song about it. If I told you you're my love, what would you say? No matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby. I'm afraid to say these words I need to say, and I hate the way I write a song about it. If I told you you're my love, what would you say? No matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby. No matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby.
So you picked a winner, Madison. I like it.
There is nothing I am more scared
I love that comment there.
of.
He was also
Just how I was
cultured.
brought up. Do you feel the same love? But like me, we all feel free sometimes. Now that I've realized I got how to dry my eyes on weekend nights. Call my bluff, please do, 'cause I've been meaning to talk to you. Call my bluff. I'm afraid to say these words I need to say, and I hate the way I write a song about it. If I told you
Hey
you're
Nick,
my
someone's
love,
asking about live captioning. Can you all turn that on?
Yes.
no matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby. I'm afraid to say these words I need to say, and I hate the way I write a song about it. If I told you
There we go.
you're my love, what would you say? No matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby. No matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby. No matter be enough, no matter be enough, baby. No matter be enough, no matter be enough. I'm in you're my love, so come on and call my bluff, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna fade that out and we are going to get started. Welcome to Bonfire number 3. Tonight, we are going to be talking about climate innovation. I'm so happy to be joined by a founding fellow all the way back in 2020, someone who created a summer camp for CU, someone that now works at CU on a gap year. Madison Adams, thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited for this lesson. We changed up the way we did our lessons from the past fellowships, and we've never talked about climate innovation. So this is a first for me, this is first for Nick, and I couldn't be more excited to talk about it.
Fantastic. All right, let's dive right in with a little icebreaker.
Okay, so the first rapid response. This is my favorite icebreaker of all time because it's timeless and you can use it again and it's really wholesome. So what has been the highlight of your day? I will share, mine's often food related, but I had some really good ramen noodles.
That's a good one.
Going outside, getting a new dog, that's huge. Not having school yeah, for the holiday.
Yeah. Happy school vacation if some of you in the Northeast are on vacation.
Yes. Eating grilled cheese, again, food related, really respect that. Sleeping in. Boba. Nice today. Listening to music, getting ice cream, baking. I love baking. Day off, I'm seeing more of that. The weather, getting coffee, watching Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I love that. So nostalgic. Going thrifting. Yes, Chabu, the kickoff call today was really good. That's where our team meets every Monday to talk about everything CU related. Hanging out with friends. Yeah, these are awesome. I love seeing these responses.
Table tennis, awesome.
Yeah.
Indian space station history. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, everybody, for putting these in.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so without further ado, let's get to tonight's lesson. We're diving right into climate change. Now, some of you might already know all about climate change. Some of you might know nothing about climate change. And hopefully we're going to kind of meet in the middle tonight. We're going to give you some basics, but then we're also going to give you some advanced stuff that people are working on. So first is a refresh on the state of our climate right now, the state of our Earth. First thing we're going to talk about is the temperature of Earth. This is what most people talk about when they talk about climate change, is the rising temperature of the Earth. So it's probably no surprise to you to learn that Earth's surface continues to significantly warm, with recent global temperatures being the hottest in the past 2,000 plus years. So very, very steep increase in temperature. If you look at this graph, you see on the x-axis, the horizontal axis here, the year, and then on the y-axis, the vertical axis, you can see the increase in temperature in degrees Celsius. Now, starting in around the 1980s, we can see a pretty steep increase in that temperature change. Now, if Earth gets to 1.5 degrees Celsius above normal, we're about 1 right now, then scientists say really bad things are going to happen if we get to that 1.5 level. If we get to 2, 2.53, then potentially catastrophic things could be happening on Earth. So we're the whole goal of this stuff is really to try to bring that number down and not reach 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, Madison's going to tell us a little bit about our oceans.
Yes, so next we're going to talk about sea levels. And just to preface this, the reason why sea levels are rising as a result of global warming is because glaciers and ice sheets are melting, which adds water to the ocean. And also the volume of the ocean is expanding as the water warms. And the reason why sea level rise is bad is obviously because it damages coastal areas, but it also increases the intensity of storm surges and flooding, which is like a really bad second order effect, which we're also going to talk about. And so to get into the technical numbers, global sea levels are rising as a result of human-caused climate change, and with a result of being an unprecedented over the 2,000 plus past years. And so we look at the chart here, the rate of change is about 3.4 millimeters per year, and it's only been increasing over the past 20 years. And by 2050, the sea level will rise another foot.
Yeah, and just like with temperature, that doesn't seem like a lot, like 1 foot or like 1.5 degrees Celsius, but that is a huge impact, just as you were saying. Okay, so what does this mean for us? What kind of events does this climate change cause? Well, first of all, these events have happened all just in the last 6 months. You can look back in the last 20 years and look at all kinds of crazy weather events, but we've had severe, almost catastrophic heat waves in the US and our Pacific Northwest, in Western Europe, British Columbia, and even in Siberia. There's been historic flooding in Germany and in the US, in the Mississippi Delta. Crazy wildfires are going on in Oregon, California, Montana, and Australia. And the smoke from these fires has traveled all around the world. In the Northeast, where Madison and I are, there were days that were filled with smoke from those California wildfires. There have been massive hurricanes in the Caribbean and the Eastern US. Mega droughts are happening in California, Utah, and other Western states. Utah, our guest last week, Nick Barney, was just telling me that they're in for potentially the worst summer ever of a drought. And many of these events have taken place in just the last 6 months.
Yes, so Nick just talked about changes in weather events, and those are more considered first order effects of climate change. But what's really important to consider is second order effects and how human life will be impacted in every way because of these weather events. And so there's a bulleted list here for lots of different ways humanity is going to be affected, but some really important ones to highlight are, for example, food. So when there are changes in weather, farmers may not be able to farm livestock and agriculture the same way that they were before. Also migration, when certain areas become inhabitable because of extreme weather, people will have to move to areas often within countries, and there will be increased migration, which could cause a lot of problems, especially in terms of resources and land. And another important one is wealth inequality. So as weather becomes more extreme, people with the most wealth are going to be able to adapt much easier, and people with the lowest wealth are not going to be able to adapt as easily, which increases wealth equality even more. All right, so take a minute to think of, have you or your country and state been impacted by climate events? And if yes, how so?
If we already listed some of them, you can still put those down if you live in those places. So feel free. California on fire.
Less snow in New York. That's so huge. Like it's only snowed what, like 3 times here? And I was shocked by that.
That's what's going on in Utah too. They didn't have any snow apparently in January.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, flooding. Yeah. Flooding was really bad in New York. It was like the first time ever that all of the subway trains were shut down because of historic flooding a few months ago. Yeah. Snow one day and 70 degrees the next. Hurricanes. Excessive rain.
Flooding in Brazil.
Droughts and rising temperatures.
Snow one day, 70 degrees the next. Yeah, that's those crazy patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, hotter than usual in Peru. Hurricane and floods in Mexico. Being able to wear shorts outside during Christmas.
Yeah, I've seen Arizona, like Luna said, crazy fires, and then I also see snow in Arizona too. So like those two things don't seem to go together.
Yeah, everything that we thought was normal for a specific region is being shifted.
Unstable weather in Jamaica.
Oh, birds that should migrate staying all winter. That's super interesting.
That's crazy. Mexico had snow? Wow, I did not know that.
Wow. Waterfalls dried out.
Wow. Yeah, I heard about Eunice in the UK. What there was videos of planes trying to land during that because the winds were so crazy.
Monarch butterflies not migrating. Yeah. You all are getting at some of the second order effects as well.
Yeah, thank you for doing this exercise because it really shows how global of a problem it is. Even if you think you're in a place that's not affected by wildfires, say, like then you see, oh, well, actually that smoke like reaches you. There's so many, like you said, second order effects of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so who/what is the culprit? We've kind of diagnosed the problem. We know about these crazy temperature patterns, crazy weather patterns. What is behind all of this? And again, this might not shock you. You probably have heard this before, but the short answer is us, humans, and the greenhouse gases that we are producing.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the greenhouse gases because sometimes these words are thrown around, but it's hard to know exactly what activities emit what gases. So the biggest one, carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. Human activities like energy production, including burning coal, oil, and natural gas. You probably already knew that. But the thing about fossil fuels is fossil fuels emit carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, but they emit the most carbon dioxide. And then methane, so of course fossil fuels like I just said, but also livestock industry. So if you've ever heard that the animal agriculture is not good for the environment, That's because of the methane that it emits, aka cow farts, if you've ever heard that, and then also burning trash. And then for nitrous oxide, human activities like burning fossil fuel and the treatment of wastewater.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that so much of our energy comes from these sources. It doesn't feel like that when you just kind of like plug in your laptop or plug in your phone or switch on a light, that it might be from a place that's burning coal. It doesn't seem possible anymore in 2022, but it is. So much of it is from that.
Especially around the world. So like, especially in developing countries, they really rely on fossil fuels.
Okay, so is there any way that our incredible energy needs, so to power all of the things that we need to do, including transportation, including just our housing and our living and working, any way those energy needs could be met by something besides fossil fuels, something that could potentially not emit those gases and then not cause those climate effects that we're seeing? And Madison and I are going to present 2 case studies in ways that we could address this issue. So first is a very, very new idea that actually had some big advancement last week. And that's this idea of using nuclear fusion technology for our energy needs. Just last week, a group of scientists in the UK announced they might have a solution for our clean energy problem. They have been using a process called nuclear fusion, where they were able to produce 59 megajoules of energy, which is not a whole lot of energy. It's actually a very small amount of energy, but they're able to produce it over the course of 5 seconds, which is more than double what they could do in the past. So they've gotten better at producing this kind of energy. This process of nuclear fusion is not something that they've just invented out of nowhere. It's actually the same process that allows the sun and the stars to shine so brightly. So there is a way for us to generate electricity, for us to generate energy that is modeled on the way that the sun and the stars shine brightly. Now, nuclear power has been around for a long time. So I don't want you to think this is the same thing as traditional nuclear power. That nuclear power is done through a process called fission. We're talking about fusion here. Nuclear fission, which has been around for a long time, that creates waste that can remain radioactive for tens of thousands of years, which is not great. We've seen that waste sometimes can cause catastrophic accidents. You might have heard of what happened in Chernobyl in Russia, or at 3 Mile Island in the United States in Pennsylvania, or in Japan. There have been instances where nuclear technology has gone awry, whereas nuclear fusion doesn't have that issue. Fusion produces little waste and uses hydrogen atoms found in seawater as its fuel source. So it's pretty cool. It's not using something like fuel or fossil fuels. It's using just basically water for it to work. Now, we're still a long way away from fusion being able to power an entire town, city, or country, but we are getting closer than ever before. And the idea here is that this is something that could be a very, very long-term, down the road solution, hopefully, to some of our energy needs.
Yeah, and Nick,
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add, I'm really glad you put that last point in, because it's a really important way to think about renewable energy sources is that we're not just looking for one alternative to fossil fuels. So it's not just like we're going to adopt solar, because it needs to be a very holistic transition. Different areas are going to be able to implement different solutions based on financial considerations, their weather conditions. And so when you're thinking about this, obviously like fossil fuels, we don't just use coal, we use a lot of different things. And so it's different solutions are going to work for different areas, and it's going to be a holistic transition, not just one energy source.
Great point. Thank you for clarifying that. In case you're wondering how fusion works, here's a little chart. I am not a science teacher, so bear with me. I'll try to explain this in just kind of 30 seconds here. But the idea is that we take hydrogen atoms from water. So these are 2 hydrogen atoms here, deuterium and tritium. And we essentially force them together to have a reaction, a fusion reaction. And that is going to produce energy. It's going to produce helium, neutron, and energy, which gets released. that produces heat, which then produces steam, and that is our energy. And where we're going to get this, the steam is going to then hopefully power certain towns, cities, maybe countries one day. If you're interested in this stuff and you have more of a science background, you can dive deeper into the details, and I'll provide you with the links to read those articles that do dive into this more. But this is the basics of how fusion works.
Yes, and so this next case study, first, before I get into it, I want to say that this is a non-science heavy example of innovation. And so we want to show you that even if you're not a science person, you can innovate in climate. And because there are so many needs that are non-science related, you don't have to be super into the energy stuff. We need everyone with all sorts of interests and skills. And so that's why I really love this example, because I think it demonstrates that. So a little background on the relationship between food and climate is that 1/3 of food produced for human consumption in the US, 1/3 of all food in the world that's produced for human consumption is wasted globally. And so that's 1.3 billion tons per year, which is a ton of food. And the carbon footprint of US food waste is greater than that of the airline industry, which is crazy. The airline industry hovers around 2%, and food waste is about 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And so there is this really innovative app called Too Good To Go that sells surplus foods from restaurants at a major discount. Just to give an example, I use this app all the time in New York. I got bagels one time for $3.99 from a store, about 10 of them, and they were just pulling them from the shelves where they were selling them to normal customers. And this is a really brilliant idea because it's a win-win for everyone, right? Like, restaurants get to sell food that they would have had to throw away, customers get food at a discounted price, and the planet benefits from wasting less food. And actually, they are available in Austin, Baltimore, Chicago, DC area, New York, parts of New Jersey, San Francisco, Los Angeles. They have so many different cities that they're available in. So you should download the app and see if they're available in your city, which means you can also participate in it too. Even if you're not trying to like create an innovation on your own, you can play your part.
I'm so glad you brought up this example, Madison, because it's in such stark contrast to the fusion example. Like, they couldn't be more on opposite ends of the spectrum. But like you said, they're both going to be needed if we're going to fully address climate effects. And the stat you have there is kind of mind blowing, that our food waste is great. The impact of it is greater than that of the airline industry. It doesn't seem even possible with the amount of planes in the air burning fossil fuels that food waste could actually be contributing more to our carbon footprint. So thank you for this case study. And I promise we're not sponsored by Too Good To Go. It's just a good idea. so check it out.
I wish we were, honestly.
Yeah, maybe one day.
All right, another rapid response. Take a minute to think of, do you know of any other climate innovations either taking place or in the works? I would love to hear what you all have.
Yeah, so these could be really small scale or they could be large scale.
Mm-hmm. Solar energy, yes.
Yeah, so solar has been in development for the last 20, 30 years, and it's finally starting to become more cost effective.
Mm-hmm. Organizations like the National Resource Defense Council, carbon capture, that's really interesting. Definitely more in the works as well.
Right. Yeah, carbon capture is almost on the level of nuclear fusion at this point. It's still so new.
Mm-hmm. Bioengineered bacteria that eat plastic. Wow, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
Sustainable fashion practices. That one's interesting because a lot of companies greenwash, and it's hard to know what's actually sustainable unless you actually look into it. But there are some brands that are. In Ireland, we're implementing climate action into the curriculum for second level education. That's really cool. Again, another good example of a non-technical, non-science innovation. Geothermal energy. We have a local leaders club at our school that aims to foster more knowledge about the environment within our community. Mm-hmm. biofuel. The climate fellowship, yes. We're going to tell you a little bit more about our climate fellowship in a few minutes. Wind energy, yes. Thrift shopping, I love that someone brought that up. The best way to sustainable fashion is to just not buy new clothes, to thrift clothes. Yes, I love that. Feeding cows seaweed to reduce their methane emissions. I haven't heard of that either.
Yeah, there's a ton here that I never thought of.
Yeah. Bacteria that eats oil in oceans. Drones that plant trees. Local compost bins for the community. Urban farming. Electric cars. That's huge. Yes. Plant-based meat. Yes. Love it. Invest in public transportation. Yes. Public transportation is great because it solves more than just climate change. This session makes me want to be a woman in STEM. Yes. Adidas made shoes from plastic waste. That's very cool.
Somebody mentioned the ocean cleanup. It's the underwater barrier that's trying to capture plastic. I've seen conflicting things on that. That'd be a really interesting case study to do, because I've seen people saying that could potentially work, and then others saying that it really has no chance.
Oh, plastic bags made of a material that marine species can eat. Oh, that's super interesting.
That's fascinating.
Well, yeah, that's really interesting, because you're not going to completely eliminate the use of plastic bags, maybe not for a while. And so you almost need a solution for, like, if they get into the ocean, what do you do?
Right.
That's really cool.
Man, all right. So you all have so many amazing ideas here, which is perfect for what Madison's about to tell you about.
Yes, I am so excited to announce that at CU we have been brewing up a brand new fellowship called the Climate Innovators Fellowship. One quick caveat before I get into it: it is for tri-state area based students. So if you're in the New York area, but it's a primarily online program with opportunities to meet in person. And it's a program that's based on careers. And so it's for people who seriously want to have a career in climate and want to explore what that might look like. So we're going to dive into the three most emitting sectors, which is industry, transportation, and agriculture, and three methods for reducing emissions, which is tech, market, and policy. So if you have any interests and you're in the tri-state area, you should apply. And at the end, you'll get to do internships. We'll have climathons where we'll be giving real world solutions and trying to solve them. And overall, it's just going to be an incredible experience. Shout out to Luna, our director of admissions, who worked on a lot of the curriculum, and Nick for helping with the design and everything. I'm just so excited for this. And if you know anyone, you can nominate them below as well.
Yeah, and I know some of you might be disappointed that you can't apply if you don't live here, but this program is a pilot program. It is going to be small, and if it's successful, then we will branch out and offer it on a wider scale. So it's not like it would potentially be like this forever. There might be an opportunity next year if we open it up worldwide again. So nothing is set in stone here that it'll always be a New York City tri-state area based fellowship. All right, so other big announcement is starting this week. You may now start working on your Civic Innovators portfolio. This is going to be essentially your capstone project. It's going to be your evidence of what you did in this fellowship. Your portfolio is going to consist of 2 case briefs that you're going to need to submit at the end of the fellowship. Now, so you're probably wondering, what are case briefs? If you read the syllabus already, it's in there, but I wanted to go over it with you tonight and to see if you had any questions about it. So you can put questions in the Q&A as I go over this. So your portfolio, like I said, it's going to consist of 2 case briefs. And also, I'm going to be sending out these slides, so don't feel like you need to memorize this or write it down or anything. And this is the same info that's in the syllabus. So what a case brief is, it's just an analysis of a vexing problem facing society. It could be like climate change, like we did tonight. And it's going to draw from the bonfire. You're going to draw from the lesson. There's a structure that the case brief follows. There's 4 parts to it. The first is you state what the issue is. Like tonight, you would talk all about what we did in our first 2 slides about climate change. You would just give the reader an overview of what the issue/problem is. Then you're going to do an analysis, just kind of like Madison and I did tonight, where we explained what those 2 civic innovations were. You're going to analyze that and critique it. And see what solutions have been proposed to solve the issue. Then third, you're going to give a proposal. This is something that Madison and I did not do tonight. This is something that you are going to do, that we're really excited to read these. You get to either present a unique original idea or tweak a current idea that you feel is not fully working. So it can be something completely original, or you, for instance, you could tweak the too good to go idea. You could say, this is fantastic. I love what Too Good To Go is doing, but I want to tweak it a little bit because I think they're missing this little piece. When you do that in your proposal, I want you to assume that money's no issue. I want you to think big. I want you to be swinging for the fences, but you need to do it within reason. You don't want to just try to invent something that would solve all of our problems. For example, you don't want to just invent a time machine and prevent climate change from happening in the first place. Although if you can prove how to invent a time machine, do it. That would be incredible if you could put that down. And then fourth, you want to have a section for further questions, because what we're most interested about here, in addition to your proposal, is the big questions that you're asking that you think need further study. I know that's a lot of info right now. So the best way to attack this is to look at a sample case brief, which is linked here. It's also linked in the syllabus. And then when you're ready to submit your first brief, you're going to draft it in a Google Doc, and then you're going to submit it via a paper form. Again, linked here and in the syllabus. These are not graded, right? Remember at the first bonfire, I told you this is not school. So you're not going to get this back with like an A on it. We're going to be checking it to make sure you give an honest effort and checking it for the great ideas that you're proposing. And we'd love to be highlighting some of these as well. We'll obviously ask you for permission, but if you're producing great work and great ideas, we want to put that out there and highlight you. So that is case briefs in short. If you have questions about it, put them in the Q&A. And we hope that you can start them this week, and you have until the end of the fellowship to get 2 done, which will make your Civic Innovators portfolio. Oh, and last thing is, hopefully you can use it beyond CU as well. When you go for a job interview, when you go for an internship interview, when you're in school, hopefully you're going to be able to produce this portfolio and show those people how deeply you've thought about these issues.
Okay, awesome. And for this week's Civic Gym, we have 4 events, which is a lot. So lots of options and lots of time zones for you all. So on Wednesday, we have a workshop with Jason. He's a recent author on a book regarding media and historical literacy. So if you want a little preview on the book and a exclusive session with him, you can come to that. Thursday, we're going to have an international relations session with Luna and Chabu. It's going to be on climate. And so that's at noon Eastern. So hopefully if you're international, you can attend that as well. On Thursday, we have the system with Nick Barney. Again, that's more of a systems thinking lesson, kind of an extension of that bonfire. And then on Saturday, we have a trek, which is an open-ended discussion on the topic of trust in elections with a special guest as well. So you can go to Discord to RSVP for those events.
The Civic Gym is fully functioning, humming along. This is an amazing week for the Civic Gym. Tons of great sessions. So pick which ones interest you and attend. I think you'll get a lot out of them. All right. So this week's readings and videos. The first 2 are more in depth on nuclear fusion technology. We'll also put in an article on Too Good To Go if you want to learn a little bit more about that. It'll be in the syllabus. And then finally, if you're interested in the Climate Innovators Fellowship and you live in the tri-state area, I highly, highly recommend reading Through the Smog. This is a climate report that was written by our very own Luna. She has done an amazing job distilling what the issue is in New York City. And I can't recommend it enough. It's in the syllabus and it's linked here. So please, please, please give that a read if you're interested in that stuff. Some quick announcements. If you signed up for a Junto, I'll be sending out the assignments tomorrow morning. You'll find out who your guide is, what day and what time your Junto is. If the time doesn't work for you, if the day and time doesn't work for you, please email me and I'll do my best to make an adjustment. No guarantees though, because the Junto slots for the most part are solidified. Juntos will be starting later this week. There are a couple of Juntos that will start the next week, but most of you will be starting this coming week. And again, here is a link to the Climate Fellowship, and here's a link to nominate people. We really, really hope that some of you apply and that some of you nominate others. All right, let's do some Q&A. Put your questions in the Zoom Q&A.
The first one I see here is, when will the climate program start? So the application is due March 18th, and the program starts April 4th and ends in the end of July.
The fellowship ends the third week in April. Oh, I'm not sure actually if she means the Climate Fellowship or the Civic Innovators Fellowship.
Well, the climate one ends at the end of July.
End of July, yeah. And Civic Innovators, this current fellowship will end in mid-April. Will we get an email update for when we should have our case briefs ready? Yes, I'm going to send reminders, definitely. You just need them by the end of April. What are paper forms? Paper form, that's just what we use for surveys. So just the link that's in the syllabus, it's a paper form link. You just got to click it to submit. You start your case briefs in a Google Doc. Yep, you're going to write them in a Google Doc. You use the template that I just showed you, and you can look at the example in the syllabus. Does this issue have to be something that has been introduced in the fellowship? No, it does not. You can write your case briefs on whatever you want, but if you're looking for structure, I highly suggest you do it based on one of the issues that we're presenting in the fellowship. So today, obviously, we did climate innovation. Next week, we're doing law and justice innovation. After that, we're doing urban planning and transportation, et cetera. So we're giving you these issues, and we're going to be highlighting different cases to get you started on it. But if you want to go in a different direction, you can. Case briefs can be written on our own topic we are familiar, or C will provide. Like I said, either one. If you want to write it on your own topic, that's fine, but I'm giving you 8 different cases you can look at. Will Civic Gym events repeat if I can't come to some that are this week? Unfortunately, no, we don't repeat the exact same event. We do record them though, if you want to watch, but we won't have the exact same event. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Madison, about Civic Gym events?
Nope. Some of these events do recur every once in a while, but not on the same topic. So for example, we'll have more treks in the future. We'll have more IR sessions in the future. They just won't be on the exact same topic.
Do we have to mail the proposal paper? So you'll just be submitting a form online when you submit your case briefs. All right, here's a climate question. How can we combat climate apathy? This is something I know you're really passionate about, Madison. You've written about this. How can we combat climate apathy?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is that research has found that fear breeds inaction. So just fear. So people are overwhelmed with, there's this huge problem, it's going to end the world, everything's terrible. Then they're not going to feel like they have any agency. They're not going to want to do anything. The biggest thing to combat climate apathy is to give people a tangible way to help solve the problem. And actually this, before I even learned that this was like the case philosophically, it applied to my life. And so I didn't really care about climate change that much. Not that I didn't care, I just didn't think about it that much. I guess I was a little apathetic. But when I watched a documentary about the effects that animal agriculture had on climate, I was like, wow, I actually have a way to contribute to solving this crisis every meal that I eat by not consuming animal products. And from there, it completely transformed the way that I saw climate, completely changed the way that I act every single day. And so the biggest thing is showing people the urgency of the problem, but also letting them know that they can help solve it as well.
Fantastic. There are 2 questions about Juntos. If you really, really want to join a Junto still, just email me after this and I will do my best. No guarantees that I can get you in one, but please email me after this and we'll give it a shot. Where can we get the slides? I email the slides every night. So you'll get that in about an hour. It'll say Bonfire 3 recording and announcements, and it'll have the slides in there. They're also always posted in the syllabus, which is also linked in the email too. So we try to make it super easy. If you go back and look at any of my emails that say Bonfire recording, they always have the syllabus in there. So that's a good way to get everything. Is the case brief supposed to be written by one person alone, or can be a group thing? You know, this is a great question. I initially designed this to be done by one person, but I don't think there's a good reason to restrict you from doing it with a partner or group if you prefer to do that and if you want to. So yes, you can do that. You'll just put in everybody's name that worked on the case brief. Are there known negative effects of nuclear fusion? I know nuclear fission has radioactive effects, but are there problems that can arise from using water? Fantastic question here. So again, I'm not an expert in this, but everything I've read is that nuclear fusion is clean, and that's what's so desirable about it. Whereas you're right, fission has the radioactive effects. The problems that could arise from using water, unless we're using so much water that we were harming the environment that way. But as far as I can see, it does not have that many negative effects. And you can read more in depth on fusion in the articles that I put in the slides and that are on the syllabus. So I'm looking for you to tell me what the negative effects are when I read your case brief. When will it be assigned to Junto? Not sure if I missed that. So Juntos you had to sign up for. If you didn't sign up for a Junto, you will not be assigned to one. If you still want to do it, like I said, email me after this. Oh, intros.ai. Do you want to answer that, Madison?
Yes, so it should have already started if you signed up. If you're having problems and you haven't, you should be getting emails every single Monday. I'm working through an issue with their team about some people not receiving emails for some reason. So if that's the case for you, you can message me and give me your email, and I can also let them know that you're having a problem as well.
Okay, more Juntos. Again, they are something you had to sign up for separately. Juntos are different from intros.ai. I am going to be sending out the information about Juntos tomorrow if you signed up for it. So if you don't get an email from me tomorrow, then you either didn't sign up or something went wrong there. You would not have gotten a confirmation email. You just would have gotten a confirmation from Paperform that you submitted the form. All right, here's a big question. Here where I live, we face really big problems, economic crises, lack of food and electricity, and so many things. So how will we be able to let people here understand how big the climate problem is? I mean, in some countries, they're facing real problems, so they're ignoring the climate one.
Yeah, it's a huge question. And if I knew the answer, I'd probably be like a really famous academic, but I don't know. What I will say is there are some arguments that people make. There's a book by Bjorn Lomborg that is called False Alarm, and he argues that actually the way to solve climate change is through first addressing extreme poverty in the developing world to help them be more resilient and adaptive to climate change. And not everyone agrees with that perspective, but it is a perspective. And so it is really hard when there are big immediate problems like poverty and extreme health problems. But yeah, I don't exactly know the answer, but there are some people who argue that those should be addressed first.
Yeah, no easy answer there. I mean, and I see some more questions about this. This is great discussion topics for you to either talk about in Juntos when you get into your Juntos, or tonight in a breakout hangout, because we are going to have to sign off in a minute here. But these are the big questions that I think you should be asking of your peers. And there's nothing wrong with like posing one of these big questions amongst them as well. Because like I said before, we don't have all the answers. We're providing you the space, the time, and hopefully the support to work on these big questions. All right. Oh, and last logistical section here. MLA format for the case briefs. For the case briefs, all you need to do is provide links to what you're referencing. So it can just be a hyperlink to it. You don't have to worry about any specific works cited page or any specific citation format. Just put in the link where you got the information, and that'll be clear when you look at the example. All right. I think we'll end it there. Madison, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I had a lot of fun though, so thanks for having me.
Yes, tons of fun. Apply to the Climate Fellowship, nominate your friends, and we will see you next week. We're going to be talking about law and justice, and Verda will be back next week too. So big stuff coming up.
Awesome. Well, thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much.
Don't forget to join the
Bye.
breakout hangout.
Bye.